So on to Spider-Man 3 before I do the Amazing Spider-Man. And I haven't seen that yet, by the way. I'm going to watch it Saturday. I did say before, but just in case nobody knows, I'm watching it on the Saturday. And it was released on the Monday, I think, or Tuesday, I'm not sure. But yeah. So here we go with Spider-Man 3. So the story, Spider-Man continues being Spider-Man. This time round we have a bunch of superheroes. Well, I mean supervillains. But well, not a bunch, there's just 3 of them. So we got like Sandman. This guy escapes from prison. He winds up at this government facility kind of thing. And he ends up accidentally stumbling across this like this area where they're doing an experiment. And then he's transformed into the Sandman. And we also, what's the other guy? Oh yeah, I don't know. Oh yeah. And of course, Harry now knows that Spider-Man is Peter Parker, his best friend who killed his father. So he's like, not happy. So like, you know, that storyline is going off as well. And of course, the symbiote, I believe it's called, crashes down to Earth from a meteorite, which allows Spider-Man to become the black-suited Spider-Man. Everybody knows this stuff. Do I really have to explain it? I mean, most people, everybody's seen this movie by now. There's probably like, of course, there's going to be a few people who haven't, but do I really need to say anymore? So Spider-Man's fighting a bunch of super villains. So as opposed to the first 2 movies where there was just one super villain per movie, this time we've got like 3 to deal with, which ups the game a bit, makes things a bit more interesting. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on in this film. Okay, so I know a lot of people hate this film. This film it seems to be hated quite a lot, but I do like it. I really like it. It's yeah, I would go as far as to say it's a great film, I guess. Don't get me wrong, it definitely has its flaws. I'll get into them later, but I do like the film. I think it's a great movie. It's not as good as Spider-Man 2, but honestly, I think it's really, like, it's better than the first one, I would say. And to be honest, I would go as far as to say it's almost as good as the second film. I do like Spider-Man 3. I think it's a good film. The one thing I really didn't like, which it bugged me, this is one of the flaws, it really bugged me. So, I guess I'm going to give minor spoilers for the first Spider-Man film. Green Goblin dies, big surprise. I mean, duh. So, if you haven't seen the first film, this is how it happens. The Green Goblin, he takes off his mask, reveals himself to be Norman Osborn, and Peter's like, oh my god, it's you? And he's like, you know, don't, the mask made me do it, I have this split personality thing, don't let me live, you gotta help me, don't let my other persona take over me again. You know, he's giving Peter all that, and as he's talking to Peter, he like hits this button on his wrist, which causes the glider to come up. So the glider comes up behind Spider-Man, and he's like keeping Spider-Man talking, and then spikes come out of the glider, and then it flies towards Spider-Man to like impale him, and that was the Green Goblin's plan, his final act, let's say. So Peter, having the spider sense, sees it coming and jumps over the glider, and then the glider slams right into Norman, and it impales him. So now I've described that to you. Peter didn't kill Norman. Norman killed himself. Norman tried to kill Peter, and Peter dodged the attack, which led to Norman getting impaled and killed. So he killed himself on accident. So Harry hates Peter because he believes, you know, he's like, oh, you killed my father. This is the thing I never really understood. Peter never actually tells Harry, this is what happened. Your father, you know, if he gave him the specifics, like, oh, we were fighting in this building, your father tried to kill me with his glider, I jumped over it and then it slammed into your father, so he killed himself in accident. Peter never actually tries to explain that to Harry, which I was really confused by. I was always confused by this, and it just doesn't make sense. It simply does not make sense as to why he never explained this to him. It just doesn't make sense. And a lot of people try to justify this as well. They say, well, Harry is so angry and consumed with rage that even if Peter had told him this, he wouldn't listen or wouldn't believe him and would still try to kill him. Okay, yeah, okay, I can buy that. but that doesn't explain why Peter doesn't at least try. Trying would not have hurt. If he could have at least have tried to explain the situation to him. Because obviously Peter wouldn't know how Harry would have reacted. So that was always a possibility. Like, you can't justify him not trying to tell Harry that. And after that, like, I do know he does try to explain it very quickly, very extremely briefly to Harry. In like a 2-second, like when they're fighting for the first time, they're like flying around the city. When they're fighting for the first time, they end up like clinging onto a wall, and then Pete says something like, "I didn't kill your father. Listen to me. He was trying to kill me. He killed himself." And then that's it. That's the last thing he ever says. That's all he says. And like the thing is, he didn't really give specifics. If he explained to Harry the situation about, you know, him jumping over the glider actually hitting Norman, maybe Harry would have been like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry." But of course, there's the possibility that I didn't believe him. But I'm saying, just saying, "Oh, I didn't kill your father. He was trying to kill me. He killed himself." Those words mean nothing, especially in such an intense adrenaline rushed fight where you're both trying to fight each other to the death. So just very briefly saying that obviously isn't going to solve anything. So I'm saying he should have spoke to Harry when he was more rational and explained what happened to him when they were thinking more rationally. I find it weird that Peter never tried to talk things out with Harry as well, because the movie begins with Peter going to a play to see Mary Jane's play, and Harry's there as well, and Peter doesn't know it, and he only sees Harry when they leave the theatre or whatever you want to call it. And they have like a 5-second dialogue. They speak to each other for like 5 seconds, and then Harry gets in his car and drives off. So between the events of Spider-Man 2 and 3, like this is made clear that this little conversation they have outside of the theatre is the first time they ever actually speak to each other since the events of Spider-Man 2. This is made clear. So I would have thought that Peter would have been very, very anxious and desperate to want to explain what happened to Harry, to try and settle things out for them, but that is the first time they've ever spoken to each other since Spider-Man 2, and I thought that was kind of weird. Like, this is your best friend and you're just going to ignore him and go to, like, how long has it been? I can't remember. I don't know if they state how long it's been since Spider-Man 2, but it just doesn't make sense as to why he didn't try to settle things between the events. It just doesn't make sense, and it doesn't make sense why he didn't try to explain the situation to Harry. Like, even when Harry gets in his car and drives off to his tower, Peter doesn't try to follow him or go to his mansion or try to speak to him on the phone. Instead, he goes about his life as if he's done nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with his relationship with Harry. He just goes about his life smiling on a scooter, and that's when he gets attacked next. He's like on a scooter the next night, and then he gets hit by Harry on the glider thing. So it just doesn't. He did have plenty of opportunities to settle things out with Harry, but he just never went for it, and that just doesn't make sense. So there's quite a bit of romance in this film with Mary Jane and Peter, and Mary Jane is a bitch, if you ask me. I didn't like her in this film. For example, she's like, I got one bad review from this critic. She's saying I was really shit in this theatre play when she's like singing or something like that. And she's talking to Peter about the critic, like she wants some emotional support, of course. And Peter, he is legitimately, as far as I'm concerned, helping her. He's like giving her an example. It's just one critic. Critics are critics. They're going to be critical. It's only one. Believe me, I know Spider-Man gets critics all the time. And she's like, this isn't about you. And I was like, well, he's just giving you an example of how it relates, how he deals with it. And if you listen to how he deals with it, you can learn how to deal with it. She's just a bitch a lot of the time. He's not being selfish, but like speaking about himself. No, this is related to you as well. He's just giving you an example. Like, what he was saying made sense. He wasn't being an asshole or anything. She was just being a bitch. She wasn't too likable in this film. There's special effects, fantastic. There's one or two moments which kind of looked fake, I guess. Like Venom at the end, when Venom's, when the symbiote thing kind of reveals the person's face who is, like, I'm not going to say who the symbiote consumes. Everybody knows, but just in case there's one or two people out there who haven't seen the movie. But like when the stuff on Venom on the host's face, Paul's back. I thought the CGI looked pretty bad there. But for the most part, the CGI is fantastic, I felt. This film has some damn good special effects. Like the Sandman effects, I thought they were great. I mean, it's all CGI, but it does look fantastic. There's some great stuff in this. The acting is fine again. You know, it's all great as far as I'm concerned. Everybody does a fine job. There was this one moment which I was kind of like, what? Like, how did this even get past the edit? Why didn't Sam Raimi call for another take? Gwen Stacy, this girl, she's hanging from the building, about to fall to her death. And the colonel, this like military guy, I think he's like a colonel or something, a sergeant, I don't know. But like this general, like army guy, he's standing there, and he learns that the girl hanging from the building is his daughter. He learns that. And I'm not even kidding, he just stays up there with a blank expression. Like Eddie, this photographer, he arrives at the scene and looks through the lens, zooms in on her, and realises that she's Gwen Stacy. He's like, oh my god, it's Gwen Stacy. And he's like, what? And then he like, it turns out it's his daughter. And then he's like, how do you know her? And he's like, I'm dating your daughter. And he's like, okay. Then he goes back to looking at Gwen Stacy hanging onto a pipe for dear life, about to fall to her death, and he totally doesn't care. What were they thinking? Why didn't Sam Raimi call for another take? Like, it really, like, I can't understand how that guy's reaction got past the edit. It's, wow, that's bad. On to the villains now. How about Sandman? I was fine with Sandman. I felt as if he was a good villain. The resolution to his storyline is clearly bullshit, and a lot of people know this. I'll get into that in the spoiler section of the review. It just does not make sense whatsoever. However, aside from that, he's a cool villain. I liked him. He was fine. Like, he wasn't as cool as Doc Ock, but he was still a worthy enough villain. Like, I was fine with his origin story, and I liked how he was connected to Peter's past, because like he was connected to the death of Uncle Ben. I liked how they connected that together. I thought that was cool. The actor who played him was fine, I guess. The special effects on Sandman were great as well. What's the other villain? Oh yeah, Harry himself, he's cool as a villain. Like I said, it just doesn't make sense why Peter didn't just explain to him what happened with him and his father and how exactly his father died. But as a villain, he's fine though, he's cool. This isn't really a spoiler, this happens like 15 minutes into the movie, but it kind of retcons, did I say that right? Retcons what happened at the end of Spider-Man 2. So Harry learns Peter's identity, so he goes to try and kill him in the third movie. But the thing is, during the first fight sequence where he kind of transforms into the Green Goblin and attacks Peter, and like he's chasing Peter and he is just legitimately trying to kill him even though they were friends. And so Peter ends up knocking him off the glider. He hits his head on a pipe and he's rushed to hospital, and it turns out what a coincidence, he's lost his memory. All of the past events for like the past few like weeks or days or however long it's been, he can't remember anything. So he can't remember that Peter is Spider-Man. So there we go, Spider-Man 2 has been erased. The events of Spider-Man 2 are pointless, aside from Mary Jane deciding to hang around with Peter. I'm not sure what to think about that. Like, it makes the ending of Spider-Man 2 kind of pointless. But at the same time, I didn't mind it. I'm not quite sure what to think of it. Like, it was fun, because like you got the tension of when is Harry going to remember? Because the doctors say there is a chance that his memory comes back. So there's like a tension throughout the whole entire film that you're waiting for him to remember that Peter is Spider-Man, so then he tries to kill him again. So you're always waiting for that moment, but it's like it's fun to see Harry, like it's kind of nice to see Harry smiling again, because his storyline is kind of depressing, but it's nice to see him happy. Like, I was happy to see him happy. Like, it's kind of like soap opera-ish. But like the actor who plays him, James Franco, I think, he's a likable guy, and it kind of brought a smile to my face to see him having fun and not being so miserable and depressed as he is throughout the series. It's cool to see him like happy. I kind of like that. But it's as if they were like, okay, I don't know, we need to deal with the Sandman storyline and the symbiote storyline. So what about Harry? Why isn't he attacking Peter throughout the film? So it's as if they were kind of thinking, okay, we got to put his storyline on hold somehow. How are we going to do that? Memory loss. That's how we're doing it. It's as if they kind of came up with that idea. They wanted to put a storyline on hold so they could deal with Sandman and the symbiote. So they were like, okay, memory loss. And then once we've dealt with the Sandman story and the symbiote story, we can, well, once we've dealt with the Sandman story kind of halfway through and the symbiote story halfway through, we can have him remember everything so we can deal with him again. I'm not sure what to think of it. I guess at the end of the day, I didn't mind, whatever. What else is there to say now? There is quite a bit to say. I'm trying to think, trying to collect my thoughts. The action scenes are, I think they're fantastic. To be honest, I felt as if the final showdown was kind of lackluster, to be fair. I thought that was kind of lame, the final showdown. I didn't like that. But all of the other fights and action scenes throughout the whole entire film are fantastic. Like Peter fighting Sandman in the subway, I thought that was great. It was just great. Like the fights are varied again. Like you've got a mix of, so like you got like hand-to-hand combat on the ground. You got Peter swinging through the air, trying to, you know, Harry and Peter just fighting in mid-air, swinging and flying at each other. You got like on the ground fights. You know, you got Venom, which is in itself, it's just like a new varied kind of fight because it's Venom, man. Like Venom's awesome. So like the action scenes are great, and I think Harry and Peter fighting each other the second time was awesome. Like in my opinion, that's possibly the best action scene in the movie. I really dug that. It's pretty short. It's like 2 minutes long, maybe even 90 seconds. But it's short but sweet. I felt as if that was a really tense. It's like a tense fight scene, and the actors did a good job as well. And how that fight scene was resolved, I thought was pretty powerful as well. I really liked that. So all of the fight scenes, they're all really well done. Like this is where it's getting really fast paced. It's kind of like, I can make a comparison to Star Wars here. You know how in Star Wars 4 and 5, the lightsaber duels, they were pretty slow paced. And then if you cut to Star Wars 3 with Anakin versus Obi-Wan. I think it's Anakin and Obi-Wan. I think I'm not a fan of Star Wars. I'm not too familiar with the names. I think it's Obi-Wan. But like if you compare it to Darth Vader versus Luke in Star Wars 5, it's pretty slow, the lightsaber duel. Then you cut to Star Wars 3 and they're doing backflips and they're like swinging the lightsabers at 1,000,000 miles per hour. That's how it kind of is in the Spider-Man films. Like Green Goblin versus Spider-Man was pretty slow, like in the hand-to-hand combat sequences. Harry versus Spider-Man in Spider-Man 3 is like, it's crazy. Like the amount of, like how fast the punches are being thrown and how they're using the environment to, like in the fight as well. It's just crazy how fast things are going on. It's really entertaining as well. Just had to collect my thoughts a bit there, so that's why it's a jump cut. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is the cheesiness of the movie, I guess. So the first Spider-Man movie had quite a lot of like cheesy moments. The second film, not so much. This time around, not so much again. I would say it's kind of on the same level as Spider-Man 2. There's not as much like really dumb, cringy, awkward jokes. The jokes, like there are still jokes throughout the movie, but then they are kind of enjoyable, I'll say. They're really, but there's one or two, there's like two cheesy moments off the top of my head I can think of, which I really hated, like moments where I was like, oh no, like which were kind of really irritating me. It's during the final confrontation between Venom, Sandman, and Peter. I didn't like how the British narrator, I just thought she was really annoying. Why did they need to have some reporter narrating the whole entire fight scene? I really didn't like that. I found it really annoying. It's like, you don't need to do this. This is annoying. Like, stop, please. I really didn't like that. Like, when she's saying, like, when Spider-Man's getting the crap beaten out of him by Sandman, and she's going, like, this might be the brutality of it. Like, when she's saying that sort of stuff, I was like, why are we cutting back towards her? And then we cut back towards this guy in the news studio, and he's like, this may be the end of Spider-Man. I just really didn't like how they were cutting to the news reporters. That really, really bugged me. Like, I really did not like that at all. That really got my nerves. And also when the kids say awesome when Sandman's head blows up, when there's like an explosion going off in his head, that all of the kids go awesome, like these two kids. I didn't like that little cut to the kids. I didn't like that. Per usual, John Jameson, awesome again. So was the Rent guy. The Rent guy returns in this movie, and he's fun, like the second movie, where the guy who keeps nagging Peter for rent. And there's one moment with John Jameson which I wasn't a fan of, is when the girl keeps buzzing him, and she's like it makes him jump. She buzzes him, and like the intercom being buzzed makes him jump because it's such a loud noise and it's unexpected. So it makes him jump and shake the table. I felt as if they did that one too many times. Him with the pills, and then she buzzes it again, and then he shakes it, and then all the pills go everywhere, and she's like, make sure to drink a lot of water. I didn't like that. I felt as if they did it one too many times. Him shaking the pills and the pills going everywhere, I felt as if that was a bit too on the nose. I was like, that's taking a bit too far. That's a bit too like on the nose, a bit too obvious. They did it one too many times, I felt. Everything else with John Jameson though was awesome. And I kind of liked how Eddie Brock was introduced to John Jameson as well. Just those two talking and him like kissing his ass big time. I just thought that was so fun to watch, and how John Jameson was just eating the compliments all up. I thought that was great. That was great fun. And Tobey Maguire, I felt as if he was acting really well. Like, I felt as if there was some legitimately powerful moments in this film. Like when he's with the rent guy and when he yells at him for not fixing the door. I thought like him just suddenly doing that, I thought that was actually a great moment. Like a moment where it's like, oh, okay. As if it like suddenly got really dark and like serious. Just him yelling at the rent guy all of a sudden. I don't know how other people feel about it, but I like that. I felt as if it was like a great moment where like everybody in the theatre would shut up if you're watching it in the cinema and be like, oh, okay. And the rent guy's reaction is great as well, where he's a good kid. When he kind of like, after Peter's left, he's kind of like stunned that Peter actually said that. I like the rent guy's reaction, and whoever played him actually did a good job as well. Like he's just a really minor character, but I think he did a good job there. Just his reaction to it, I felt as if it was actually powerful. And of course Peter actually hitting Mary Jane as well. I felt as if that was like powerful as well. That was a great moment. It was genuinely shocking, I felt. There's also this other really shocking moments, but I'm not going to say because it's a big spoiler. I'll get into that at the end. I felt as if the Spider-Man and symbiote storylines were well chosen. Like I said, I haven't read the comics, so I'm not sure if this is how it's done in the comics anyway, or maybe the writers just thought of this for the movie. So if they did, kudos. If they're not just following the comic book storyline, I felt as if the symbiote and Sandman went well together because of course Sandman killed Uncle Ben, and the symbiote is like invoking all the negative emotions such as rage. So Peter's a lot more aggressive in that fight, as he should be, because this is the guy that actually killed Uncle Ben. So I felt as if using the symbiote storyline along with the Sandman villain in this movie went well together. Like they both went well together. They slotted together nicely. I felt the like two villains. I'm not sure if you would call the symbiote itself a villain. I'm not sure. I guess you could. I don't know. That would make it 4 villains then, because you got Venom, the symbiote itself, the Green Goblin, as well as Sandman. What else is there? I think I'm gonna start getting into spoiler territory in a minute. Not yet. I guess I should talk about the one thing which most people are angry at this movie. Of course, I'm not gonna ignore this. Like I love this. No, I didn't love the movie. I take that back. I'm not that powerful. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's a great movie. I stand by that. I don't care what people say. I think it's a great movie. But I'm going to move on to the emo Parker thing. The emo Peter Parker. So if you haven't seen the movie, he uses the symbiote thing, like the black suited Spider-Man thing. It kind of invokes like all these negative emotions. It makes him seem like an asshole. Like he's really cocky and confident, like overly confident. And like it invokes like emotions such as rage, so that sort of stuff. But Peter just goes what people describe as full-on emo, and a lot of people seem to be baffled by the sequences where he's walking down the street. He's got a swag on, and he's literally dancing, walking down the street, and he's like literally dancing, and he's like clicking his fingers, like pointing at all the girls, and he's like being really cocky, like, you know, walking down the street, like strutting his stuff, dancing in the clothes shop, walking out and just like showing off his shirt like that and going on and just, you know, he's just doing all this stuff. And like the dance scene in the club as well. A lot of people get angered by this. And to be honest, I don't know why. I don't know why. Honestly, I guess it's kind of goofy, yeah, sure, and a bit cheesy, I guess, but it's Spider-Man. I just went along with it. So it didn't really bother me. I guess some people wanted this film to be take itself a bit more seriously, and then Peter going all emo and just strutting his stuff down the street and doing that dance in the club. I guess I guess people, I don't know, people just don't like it. I guess it's just a bit too goofy, I guess. I was okay with it. I mean, the Spider-Man films, I felt as if they were kind of silly anyway. So I didn't mind. I was like, whatever. I really can't, I don't see a problem with those sequences. What I do see a problem with, though, is the end. The last like 20 or 30 minutes of the movie. I feel as if the last 20 or 30 minutes of the movie is where the movie seriously goes downhill. Everything past the church scene, bad, in my opinion. As soon as the church scene is over with, like that, when Venom is created, the movie just goes downhill from there, in my opinion. I'm trying to think. How can I say why I don't like about this now without spoilers? As far as I can see, Venom is a pretty big deal for starters. I never read the comics, like I said a million times, and I can't remember barely anything about the cartoon TV show. But if I remember right, Venom was a pretty big thing. He was like a big character. Like, Venom to Spider-Man is what the Daleks are to the Doctor. He's like the villain of Spider-Man. He's the big bad guy. It's like what the Joker is to Batman, for example. And Venom, he only appears in the last 20 minutes of the movie, or 30 minutes, whatever, but he appears in like the last 20 minutes of the movie, and that's it. So that's just like really, really lame. He's such a big like character, a big villain. He definitely deserves to have a whole entire movie dedicated to him, but instead he appears in the last half an hour of this movie, and that's it. It's just really lame. And like the fight scenes with him aren't too interesting or creative either. They're pretty bland for the most part. I wasn't a fan of the fight scenes with Venom. I thought they were pretty bland. And the actor who played Venom, when he wasn't Venom, I felt as if he did a good job. But as soon as he became Venom, I just couldn't take him seriously, spouting these really bad one-liners, and it just didn't work. I didn't feel as if he played Venom very well. When like I said, when he wasn't Venom, I felt as if he was a great actor playing the character he was. But as soon as he became Venom, I just felt as if his acting took a dive from there. I don't feel as if he could play the bad guy too well. Yeah, so Venom, he just wasn't handled very well. He should have been the main villain of Spider-Man 4 or 5. He should have, like, Venom deserves to have a movie dedicated to him. Or 2 movies, hell, even 3. He's a big deal in Spider-Man, I believe he is at least. He does seem like a big deal from what I can remember about the TV show. So just dealing with him in 20 or 30 minutes, it's just, no. I believe the producers forced Sam Raimi to have Venom in the movie, I think. I'm not quite sure. I haven't done my research, but I did see like a few people mention this online. So it's something like the producers forced Sam Raimi to throw Venom into the movie, and he didn't want Venom into the movie, which kind of explains why it was like, it's like he was shoehorned into the movie at the last second. So that kind of explains why he was handled so badly, I guess. So, but even then, you know, even if it's the producer's fault, then sure, okay, it's the producer's fault, but it doesn't stop the movie from being bad in that regard. I think that's all I have to say as well. So that's what I thought about Spider-Man 3. Action scenes are great. I do feel as if the film would have benefited. Well, I mean, like, Venom shouldn't have been in the movie. I do think as if this is how the film should have gone. So we got Sandman and the symbiote, and I guess Harry, I guess. So I felt as if they should have dealt with the Harry storyline, the Sandman storyline, and the symbiote storyline. That's it. and then it should have ended on a cliffhanger with Venom being created, and then Spider-Man 4 could have focused on Venom, or heck, have Harry survive, like, or at least like at least have Harry like go through Spider-Man 3, and then in Spider-Man 4 deal with Venom and Harry in Spider-Man 4. Venom, they really should have ended on a cliffhanger with Venom being created, but of course resolve the Sandman storyline in Spider-Man 3. It's just such a shame. I do feel like it could have been a really awesome movie, but for they just didn't handle Venom very well. So yeah, so Venom was handled very badly. Action scenes are great though; they're fantastic. There's a really goofy like emo Peter sequence where he's like strutting his stuff, walking down the street. He's dancing in a club, which a lot of people hate. Well, not hate. A lot of people despise. Honestly, I can't hate it. I like it. I don't really see it as a bad thing. Like, Spider-Man's kind of silly anyway, so I can't hate it. I just can't. Special effects are great. Sandman doesn't compare to Doc Ock, but he's a fun enough villain. Like, the special effects with him are fun. Fight scenes, action scenes are great. Mary Jane is a bitch, really annoying. But for the most part, I really enjoyed Spider-Man 3. I think it's a great movie. Spider-Man 2 is slightly better, but Spider-Man 3 is still great. And then it's better than Spider-Man 1. Far better. But even I'd still like Spider-Man 1. So yeah, that's the not so spoiler section of the review. Now I'm moving on to spoilers, so leave if you don't want spoilers. The other really impactful moment, or really effective or shocking moment I felt was at the end of the Harry versus Peter fight. At the end, this is the second fight now where Peter is fighting Harry in the in his like apartment or his penthouse, whatever you want to call it. And I felt as if when Harry throws the bomb at Peter and then Peter uses his web to swing it back, then he just throws it back and then the bomb goes off in Harry's face. I felt as if that was like a great moment, as if like I felt as if it was a shocking moment to go. That shows how far like the relationship has crumbled, and like he's willing to just kill Harry and just not look back. See, he just like walks away without looking back. I just felt as if that was a pretty like shocking moment when he just throws the bomb back without caring and just walks on, and then it goes off in his face. And then later on, when you see Harry has survived the bomb blast, but like half of his face has been like disfigured from the explosion. What I didn't like about how the Sandman storyline was resolved, like it just does not make sense, and everybody complains about this. It's just how so basically Sandman says to Peter, after Venom and the Green Goblin have been taken care of, he just stands there and says to Peter, yeah, this is basically what he says: I killed your uncle, I'm sorry. That's it. And then Peter's like, I forgive you, and then he lets him fly off. That's it. Sandman says, I killed your uncle, I'm sorry, and Peter says, I forgive you, then he flies off. It just doesn't make sense. Like, why he's letting this it just doesn't make sense. Like, what oh god, like everybody complains about it, but I've got to say it too. Anything else? Yeah, there's one last thing here about the spoiler section of the review I want to say. At one point in the movie, Harry, when he regains his memory, I liked how smug he was in the cafe scene, where he's like that line when she goes, how's the pumpkin pie? And he's like, it tastes so good. Like the massive smile he has on his face, and when he looks back at Peter and winks at him across the road, I thought he was awesome. James Franco, man, that smile, that really smug smile was fantastic, I felt. Yeah, so Mary Jane gets threatened by Harry when he regains his memory. He's like, if you want Peter to live, dump him. That's what he says. But he's Spider-Man. Why doesn't she say, Harry has got his memory back, go beat his ass? Like, he's Spider-Man, he can protect himself. Or maybe it might be because like she doesn't really love Peter at that point much anymore, so I guess that might be why. But that's really all I have to say, I think. Yeah, that's what I have to say. So I did like Spider-Man 3. So I'm kind of looking forward to The Amazing Spider-Man this Saturday. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the review. So all in all, I do like Sam Raimi's trilogy, and I do like all three movies. Like Spider-Man 3, it had its flaws, but like Venom was horrible. But But I feel as if the first like 90 minutes of the movie are solid as far as I'm concerned. It just goes really, really downhill in the last act. And that's all I have to say, so that's it. Thanks for watching. See ya.